It's a severe weather Saturday across the country, and the severe threat's going up, especially across parts of Pennsylvania, New York, even Ohio. Here we could see some tornadoes into the afternoon. And look at this. We're going to talk about this too in detail. We're looking at Beryl now, expected to become a hurricane. Now, you don't want to pay a lot of attention once you get past day 4 and 5. The National Hurricane Center actually saying that, but that doesn't mean you give up and go, oh, well, this thing isn't going to affect anyone. It just means that there is a lot of uncertainty. You can sort of see the spaghetti plots widening that out as we head toward the end of the week, but the risk is there. Now, here's the thing about Beryl. You've got it out here. You've also got this area here across the Yucatan, but I am more interested in what's going on out here because while I'm not giving up on Beryl, I think this will be something to watch because as we move through the week, what's going to keep Beryl likely south of the U.S., and I say likely at this point, that could clearly change, so keep that in mind. If you're watching this, again, it's Saturday. I'm not sure when you're watching it, but make sure you get the latest information on this because this could be something to keep an eye on. If you've not subscribed, I hope you will and come back. But this high that's starting to move across the United States, again, that will be our Beryl repellent, if you will, as it keeps it mostly to the south. We've got our Azores high really entrenched here across the North Atlantic. And then that high here across the east continues to drift off to the east, again, pushing Beryl closer to Central America, the Yucatan Peninsula, somewhere in that neighborhood. But that 10% area that the National Hurricane Center was watching, that's still way out in the Atlantic, really just off the coast of Africa. Who knows if this thing will develop? But if it does, what I don't like is by this point in time, and this makes sense, right? The high that's across the east starts to move off, and now you've got some troughiness here. Is that enough to scoop up whatever develops here in the Gulf, maybe pulling it a little bit further north? Does it pull it into the Gulf? Does it happen earlier? Does it bring it into the East Coast? A lot of questions. That's why I am a little concerned about the second storm that's forming. That's something, again, to watch. Let's talk about the severe weather. Today, though, across the east, that's where we're going to see the strongest storms here from Ohio into Pennsylvania, New York, even West Virginia and Maryland, damaging winds. That's one of the main threats with some tornadoes, too. Some of them could be really firing up into the afternoon, into the evening, at least the storms, and then that tornado risk going up with that as well. Tomorrow, that threat shifts off to the east. We've also got our next system bringing some storms here across the west, but let's focus here on the East Coast because the same system that's going to be bringing the storms today shifts to the east. While it's not high, there is a risk of a few tornadoes, not just in the mid-Atlantic, but also even into the northeast again. I mean, I don't know that we see as high of a threat as we saw just several days ago, but still, we're talking about parts of Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, down through Massachusetts, Rhode Island, even all the way down into New Jersey and eastern PA once again, and Maryland. So that will be something to keep an eye on over the next couple of days is this jet stream. I mean, this is the driver. Yeah, you'll get strong development of storms a little further to the south, I think. But if you don't have those dynamics to really push those storms, you get more of a tall and skinny thunderstorm that can produce a lot of rain, but likely not to be as severe. And you can even get strong downbursts with those types of setups. But the big threat, again, and that risk would be, again, here across the Northeast through Sunday, because that's where our driving winds are, and that's the fuel for the storms, in addition to the heating. It's not just about heat. You've got to have the dynamics in the atmosphere, and it looks like we have that. Here's your future radar. Through the afternoon, there come the storms, picking up in intensity by, say, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, and that rolls on through the evening hours. Intensity backs off as typical once we get past midnight. Some of these could hold their strength, though, especially as they move into parts of southern Pennsylvania, maybe even parts of West Virginia and Maryland. But overall, the trend will be for weakening, and then we set up for what happens on Sunday with our storms developing. Some of these may get strong, too, here across northern New York, moving into Vermont and New Hampshire and Maine. And then, again, that extends all the way south into parts of Virginia, West Virginia, maybe some much-needed rain finally for places like Kentucky and North Carolina, widening this out just a little bit. Of course, the best chances for rain will be across the Northeast, but as we move into Saturday, again, back here, we could see some stronger storms. But Sunday, some of that rain might finally move into the Southeast. I don't know about Kentucky. I don't know if everybody's going to see the rain. Unfortunately, it looks still kind of scattered, as, again, most of that energy in the jet stream is still further to the north, but there is a chance. Some strong storms, too, on this Saturday, extending here from the Midwest all the way back to the face of the Rockies, maybe even into the Rockies. We've had this persistent monsoon flow out here, just bringing in quite a bit of moisture. So we'll see storms today in these areas, and then on Sunday, things start to expand a little bit further to the south now. Here is our front drop south, or what's left of it, and then we look to our next system back up here across the northern plains and also into the Rockies that will move east. Highs on Sunday will be hot again. It's going to be hot on Saturday, but notice the cool down starting to take effect. Some areas back into the 70s and 80s versus the 90s and triple digits. But the heat holds on, especially across central and southern Oklahoma, down into Texas, across the deep south. We're baking here. And this is interesting. Of course, the Southwest is always hot, but look what might happen late next week. We might push that heat all the way north into the Pacific Northwest. Still a lot of time before we get there, and we'll be watching that too. That's interesting. Here's your rain if you're timing it out. There's what we've looked at here through the weekend. Heading into next week, we've got this one system that looks like it's going to bring some rain here across the northern plains, even into the central plains by Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe even into Thursday. But now we're looking again into the tropics. What's happening here? Where does this go? Our high pressure ridge starts to relax here across the east coast, and that may actually start to bring some rain back into this area. And then we're also looking back here. Do we see something that gets pulled north as a result of our high pressure leaving? Again, a lot of question in this area for the following week. A lot of time to get there, and I'll be tracking it. Come back and see me. Thanks for stopping by, guys. I'll see you next time.